Good afternoon. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment for January 5th, 2017. Happy New Year. First thing you might want to do is turn down the volume on your phone. That's what I'm going to do, so it doesn't go off during the meeting. And we're all assembled, so we'll start. Our first item of business, I guess, is withdrawals or continuances. Which should go first? Oh, that's right. We have to receive the minutes. Sorry. The really first item of business is to receive the minutes of the December 1st, 2016 Board of Adjustment meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to receive the minutes. Would you cast your votes, please? And they are received. We have continuance requests and withdrawals. We have one item to be continued, item number 7, case number 14309. It's going to be continued until January 19th. Is there anybody present to be heard on that matter? Would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Mason Schwartz, 522 Colcord Drive, on behalf of the applicant. Yeah, we did submit the continuance request yesterday, so we'd ask.
Anyone else to be heard on that matter? Sir?
David Walkup, Chairman of the Board of Elders for Forest Hill Christian Church, 2121 North MacArthur, and I'd like to put a favorable word in for this. We will be receiving income from this tower, and it will be helpful in our continued charitable activities in the neighborhood.
I think that's appropriate, don't you, to have those comments made part of the record, even though the item is going to be continued? Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to continue case number 14309 to January the 19th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue item 14309 until January 19th. Would you cast your votes, please? And it is so continued. We have an item that's been withdrawn. It's item number 15, case number 14302. Is there anybody to be heard on that matter that's here present today? No? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to withdraw case number 14302.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to withdraw item 14302. Would you cast your votes, please? And it is withdrawn. Do we have to vote on withdrawal? Not really. Okay. So we'll start.
Item number 1, case number 14294, request of David Porgy for a variance to permit the building with exterior metal walls in PUD 47 district located at 5930 West Memorial Road.
David Forgy, 4801 Galardia Parkway.
Could you tell us about your application, please?
Yes, excuse me. Our application, or my application, is for the use of architectural metal panel or rain screen on a portion of a service center we are doing on North Memorial Road and MacArthur Boulevard. Our clients, or my client, chose this panel because they own several car dealerships, auto dealerships, and they wanted to portray that same level of quality and value in this building also.
It was not entirely clear to me from looking at the materials that were included in my packet what part of the building
I'm
is
sorry, I
metal
wish that
panel.
was in color. If you go to the previous page there, the portion of the building with the gold key logo on it, both sides, The tall box, the long, narrow portion is not. That is EFS.
Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on this matter today? Members of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14294. Would you cast your votes, please? It is
Thank you.
approved.
Item number 2, case number 14303, request of Dennis Picklesmeyer for a variance to the minimum front yard setback in the R1 Single Family Residential District located at 14704 South Harvey Avenue.
Dennis Picklesheimer, 10925 East Side Drive.
Could you tell us about your application, please?
Well, because of a house that we've built about approximately 80 times for the same builder, ended up a little too close to the curb in this cul-de-sac. The houses, there's 2 of them actually, they didn't fit right on the cul-de-sac. We had to shrink them. We actually got authorization from the builder's superintendent because the builder was out of town. And we told him it was really, really close to going to be too far forward. He actually said, I think it's going to be okay. So we put the stem wall in, and after it was surveyed, it ended up being roughly, I think it was 14 inches closer to the curb than what is required.
Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on this matter today? Members of the board?
It's a transgression, but a forgivable transaction in my eyes, so I would make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve case number 14303. Would you cast your votes, please? It's approved.
Thank you.
Item number 3, case number 14305, request of G&S Sign Services LLC for a variance to the number of signs per street frontage in the AA Agricultural District located at 15400 North Rockwell Avenue.
Madam Chairman, I just needed to disclose that my grandchildren go to Spring Creek Elementary School, but I'm not involved in any way with this application.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you. Would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Cameron Gleason. I'm representing G&S Sign Services located at 1019 East Grand Boulevard, Oklahoma City.
And tell us about your application, please.
Application to this site is particularly unique because 2 of the roads that go into the school are both one-way streets. And there's not a whole lot of landmark or anything, and the school itself sits back really far from the road. And our idea is to keep the sign kind of as a landmark to mark the one-way entrance into the school so that cars, because the speed limit's 50, and we wanted to make sure that the people going to the school don't mistake the wrong entrance for where the buses come out. And the message center portion of it is to keep the families in the area current on anything that's going on with the school, and while also keeping the school technologically current.
So would this be considered an EMD sign?
Portion of it, yes. The this lower portion is an EMD message board.
There's no variance being sought here, though, for the size of the sign. It's just the fact that you've got a building sign, and so the zoning designation won't allow you to have any street front signage without a variance, right?
They won't allow us to have more than one sign because there's this current sign on the building, so we got denied for having more than one sign on the frontage.
Is this sign compliant? If there were not a sign on the building and they were to submit this application, would this sign be compliant with the?
Yes.
It would be, okay.
Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on this matter today? Members of the board?
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 14305. Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved.
Item number 4, case number 14306, application for special exception of Ty Hester to allow a mobile home to serve as a temporary second dwelling to relieve a medical hardship in the AA Agricultural District located at 13901 Deer Run Drive.
Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Ty Hester, 13901 Deer Run Road, Jones, Oklahoma, 73049.
And tell us about your request, please.
Well, my request is for an exemption so I can have my second residence on the property to help take care of my grandparents.
And all of the paperwork's been submitted, it's all in order?
Yes.
So, is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on this matter? Members of the board?
We customarily allow 3 years. Would that be acceptable to you?
That's well acceptable.
This is is this a renewal?
It's a new application.
Okay.
If there's no more discussion, I'd make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14306. Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved.
Thank you.
Item number 5, case number 14307, request of Aaron Adams for a variance to the minimum 150-foot frontage to a public or private road in the AA Agricultural District located at 9900 Covelda Drive.
I'm Aaron Adams. Do you need my physical address?
Please.
2209 Glacier Road, Yukon, Oklahoma, 73099. We bought this 20 acres and we're wanting to build a house on 10 acres of it. I already have an easement from the people I actually bought the property from, and I just need you guys to hopefully grant me a variance.
So it's only a single home that you're going to build on the
Yeah.
property?
Yeah, and then we're going to do some farming out there. It's AA, so
And would it be acceptable to you if variance were conditioned in that way, that it's for a single home?
yeah.
Is there anybody else who's wanting to be heard on this matter? Members of the board?
So you bought a portion of a larger land area, right? And,
Yeah.
And now you're just wanting to build on that?
Yeah.
Okay, and what is the acreage that you have?
I actually own 20 acres out there.
Oh, okay. And what's the size of the area that,
The house is going to sit on half of it and be allocated to 10 acres.
what's the total size? What was left after you acquired 20 acres?
I think altogether the family had 75 acres out there. And then there's actually the adjacent property has 80 acres out there. But the property I bought was in the back part of it.
But there is a road serving your...
Yeah.
And that, okay. Okay.
Yeah, and
I got it.
I have that filed too with Cleveland County.
I'm with you now. I got it. Thank you very much.
Members of the board, may I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the application. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14307. Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved.
Thank you.
Conditioned upon the construction of a single home.
Was that with the condition?
Yes.
Item number 6, case number 14308, request of Michael Klober for a variance to the front yard fence height located in the AA Agricultural District located at 1400 Southwest 119th Street.
Thank you. Michael Klober, 12908 Doriath Way, Oklahoma City. Yes, we bought the 10-acre lot down there. It's kind of a unique piece of property on 119th Street. We built a very nice house back away from it. It's 660 feet across, and it sits on 119th Street. And we'd like to put a nice brick and wrought iron fence across the front, but the variance that we're needing is the height of the wrought iron. We'd like to have 2-foot or 8-foot pillars and bring the wrought iron up from the brick base up to 7 feet. I have some additional drawings if that would make it any clearer what we're trying to accomplish here.
Would anybody like to look at the drawings? I think it's fairly straightforward. Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on this matter? Members of the board? Comments, questions, motions?
JJ, what is the, what is the real intention of the 6-foot height requirement? What was the city trying to protect there?
It's actually 4 foot.
Well, for a number of years, it was 4 foot.
Right.
Across the board. Recent years, for larger lots in rural areas, we've increased that to 6 foot for situations just similar to this, where you have large acreage lots and rural estates.
I think it's fair to say that the standard rule, the original rule, really has more to do with areas that are sort of in more traditional neighborhoods, more, residential areas rather than rural areas. So,
Yeah, the idea is not for the fence to dominate the property and across the front or block view of the house.
And in this particular case, this is the type of property that I think it would be appropriate to approve this variance, dealing with the size of the property and the location. And staff noted that it's in scale with the property and the home, and I would be in favor of approving it. Yes, I so move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14308. Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved.
Thank you all very much.
Item number 8, case number 14310, request of P Drive Properties LLC for a variance to the requirement that no more than 40% of the building be recessed more than 10 feet from the street frontage in the downtown business district located at 500 Northwest 6th Street.
And am I correct that this design has been reviewed and approved by the Downtown Design Review Committee?
You are correct. It has been approved.
Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sean Lorg with Crittenbrink Architecture, representing P Drive Properties LLC, regarding the 500 Northwest 6th Street property.
Our staff reports indicates that this is actually sort of a site triangle issue as well, that there's some safety considerations in the placement of the building.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Well, the district, that downtown business district requires us to be within 10 feet on both sides. Because that is on that corner, it kind of forces some of these, some of the issues. It kind of forces some of those. And additionally, some of the guidelines are actually conflicting in that the sightline triangle that you're speaking of is on and shown on the plan here shows that it's actually supposed to be, we're overlapping into that, and that's not what this issue is about, but it's 25 feet in each direction, but they also require us to be 10 foot, within 10 foot, so that there's a little bit of discrepancy there. However, the variance is based on that 10 foot, and across that entire facade, which I believe is 168 feet 9 inches, the average across that is actually 5 feet. So we're way within, at times, we're a foot off of the property line at times. At times, there are 2 instances where you can see where it jets back, or I'm sorry, 4 instances where we go to 13 feet. So we're actually 3 feet over what the required 10 foot is at that point, which gets us to that 45% number. We believe that, and of course the Downtown Design Review also believed that was appropriate.
Your application indicates that if you were not seeking this easement, or excuse me, this variance, you'd be seeking a variance in the alternative because of the obstruction issue with the right-of-way.
That is correct.
Is that correct, Katie? Okay, thanks.
Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on this matter? Members of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14310. Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved.
Thank you.
Item number 9, case number 14311, request of Bright Shine LLC for a variance to the minimum driveway separation of 150 feet from an intersection in the I-2 Moderate Industrial District located at 3820 Northwest 39th Street.
Good afternoon. Cindy Wright with Johnson & Associates, 1 East Sheridan. The variance request before you is for a drive for a proposed car wash. The drive sits, as proposed, sits approximately 138 feet from the intersection instead of the required 150 feet. In discussions with staff and with the design staff, there was some movement of the driveway to try and meet that 150 feet. However, if we were to shift it away from the intersection and meet the 150 feet, then there are parking spaces that are loosed on site, as well as there's an existing driveway that it would come closer to. So it was trying to get the best location that would meet the distance from the intersection, the distance from an existing driveway, and still provide adequate parking on site.
Is the loss of those spaces that are on the northeast side of your lot, are those, or excuse me, I guess that'd be the southeast side of your lot, but are those required for your use?
They are, I'm trying to remember if...
I guess it would be the
the top
northeast side.
there?
I'm sorry.
Yes, northeast.
It's northeast. I said it wrong. I was right the first time.
I know that they were counted as parking on site. I'm not sure of the count as far as if they are required. For car washes, I'm not sure. Maybe JJ or...
Yes, there is a parking requirement, and those are the only on-site parking spaces, so they would be there to meet his parking requirement.
And even without that issue, I think, if you look at the site map, you see that those two drives would be closer together, and it's like you said, you discussed with city staff, and the 138 was deemed to be a compromise, a reasonable compromise.
It misses the standard by 12 feet.
Is placement of the driveway in this location, I guess you're not concerned with 12 feet one way or the other, probably wouldn't make a difference. But with respect to just the rise and fall of 39th Street, there are no sightline issues or difficulty as far as the location of the driveway?
The other thing, too, the Willow Springs Avenue is not a heavily traveled road, and so it's not like if that First Street West was Portland or Meridian, where you had a lot heavier traffic turning back east.
Right.
That's right.
And there are, on Northwest Expressway, there are medians at this location.
Right. Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on this matter today? Members of the board?
No further discussion. I would make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item 14311. Cast your votes, please. It is approved.
Item number 10, case number 14312, request of Kyle and Marie Franz for a variance to the front and corner side yard platted setback in the R1 Single Family Residential District located at 3224 Quail Creek Road.
Good afternoon, Mark Grubbs, Grubbs Consulting, 1819 South Morgan Road, on behalf of the applicant. What you have, the case you have before you today is an existing house in Quail Creek. The applicant just recently bought this house, and unbeknownst to them, when they bought the house, they bought it with intentions to adding on to the house, but there are encroachments into the existing building line. So this corner of the house is where they intend to add on, and it might be better shown by this map here. That portion of the building sits over the building line by 1.7 feet. The addition will go above there and will not encroach any further. But this would legitimize that existing encroachment.
How long has that existing encroachment been there? Do you know?
The house was built in like 65.
I'm surprised that in the process of the financing, it didn't come up already. I mean, with or without the addition.
They didn't finance it. It was closed with cash, so they didn't know.
There you go. So, I mean, the problem needs to be solved whether they build an addition or not, because
Right.
the encroachment exists currently. Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on this matter? Members of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the application. Second.
I have a motion and 2 seconds to approve case number 14312. Would you cast your votes, please?
Thank
It is
you.
approved.
Item number 11, case number 14313, request of Sam Gresham for a variance to the sidewalk requirement along Southwest 149th Street in the I-2 Moderate Industrial District located at 4301 Southwest 149th.
Sam Gresham, 400 Northwest 23rd, representing the owner of this property. The request is for a variance to the sidewalk requirement for 100 Southwest 149th Street. The purpose of this request is that the contour along 149th Street from the I-44 service road, exit ramp actually, to Southwest 149th is the contour along that street, frontage, is between 7 and 8 feet between the street, the bottom of the bar ditch along the roadside. I have some photographs and some contour plans to show you as exhibits here. The bar ditch itself is deep. It's very, very deep. And the owner is, well, he's asking for some relief on what it would take to put in a sidewalk in a place which, as the site and aerial photograph shows, which I've presented to you as an exhibit here, is a pretty empty part of the city. There's largely nothing out that way. The sidewalk would have to terminate crossing over a I-44 has a bar ditch that runs alongside of the exit ramp, and it crosses under the Southwest 149th through a culvert pipe. And there's a good 8 feet of difference between the contour, the grade at the top of their pad there, and where it would exit onto that exit ramp. This business is not one that has, I know this is a current condition, and long-term business views, I guess, or the idea that pedestrian traffic might exist in this area at some point in the future. This area would be far in the future if there was such a change in density. There is no pedestrian traffic. There are no people in this part of the city. The illustration that I present is really the aerial map that shows both how isolated it is, as well as photographs showing how rugged the contour is, how dramatic the level changes are between the bar ditch and the property.
Question to staff is, are there any street or drainage improvements scheduled for this area? Do we know? No. Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on this matter today? Members of the board?
We're normally, this is the dilemma we have all the time about sidewalks. It's a priority, and there's no dedicated anything to provide for collection in lieu of in this particular case. My only question is, did Public Works or anybody have any comments or other comments about this this project? Or
They did send some comments, but they were just standard comments that they would typically send on anything, so it wasn't anything that would relate to this.
does it appear to be able, if it were installed or we had to make the corrections, would they be able to actually utilize it given the topography of the highway system?
We dealt with this in December, and it was the same sort of thing. The topography made a sidewalk, impractical at this time. But the problem I think that we have collectively in a variance is that it gives you that exemption in perpetuity. And we understand that over time things can change. And so we found a way to grant you relief perhaps from the sidewalk requirement at this time without granting it forever.
What's that provision? What were you proposing?
Go ahead.
We tied it to zoning, as I recall.
Condition upon the zoning. We conditioned it upon the zoning remaining the same as its current use, so that if the use changes, the variance would go away.
To a more intensive use, you're saying? It would require a parking or a sidewalk?
Because nobody knows in the decades ahead how this part of town and, the area will be regraded and reused at some other point. And we did not want to create a variance that could never, that was in effect regardless. So if we condition it on the zoning, then if the zoning changes and the use of that parcel, that land changes, then the sidewalk requirement can be imposed.
I think that's completely acceptable. I think street improvements on this, if it became a place where a lot of curb cuts occurred, that bar ditch is unacceptable. It's so deep. It is, you'd bridge every parcel with some kind of culvert pipe and concrete causeway. It's not reasonable to imagine that they wouldn't put in a culvert pipe as a drainage system and some kind of a recontour that whole side with a curb and gutter. I'm sure that would be acceptable. Is that something you guys can agree to? Or I can agree to it, certainly.
Is there any other discussion? I'll make the motion. I make a motion to approve the application on the condition that it remain its current zoning use.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item 14313, conditioned upon the continuation of the current zoning. Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved.
Thank you very much.
Item number 12, case number 14314, request of Gardner Architects for a variance to the required number of parking spaces in the I-2 Moderate Industrial District located at 1012 Northwest 1st Street.
Would you give us your name and address the record, please?
Jeremy Gardner with Gardner Architects, 401 Northwest 23rd Street.
And tell us about your application, please.
So the variance we're seeking is for the old Sunshine Laundry building that sits there at First and Classen. The issue is that it's currently zoned I-2. It's directly across the street from what is currently the DDT2 overlay, so which does not require minimum parking. And so given the adjacency to the DDT2 and the probable expansion of the DDT2 probably to Western eventually, we're seeking that variance to forego those minimum parking requirements. The owners of the building did secure the adjacent lot where they have maximized the number of parking that we could fit on that site to the west. And then they've also selected an anchor tenant that is a brewery, which won't have a large kind of parking burden on the site. So I think those are sort of the issues at play.
So on our site map, you've got that property just west of your area where it shows Antique?
Correct.
On our map. What's the potential number of customers or clients that would use this facility? And do you know how many parking spaces are going to be available in that lot?
It's yet to be determined because it's still, we just are finishing up construction on the core and shell, and it hasn't been fully leased yet.
So the occupancy right now is still a question mark a little bit?
Yes.
Do you have any idea how many spaces will be in the lot that you've secured immediately west?
Do you happen to have that site plan as part of the... I'm trying to remember if there was... Yes, right. Yeah, that's that site plan.
$15 on site, one is handicap, and then
Correct. So
there's
right there on the west, you see there's, I was thinking there was 18, but we had to locate a transformer and a dumpster enclosure.
It looks like there's also some street front parking right there, another handicap space, and then a couple of parallel spots, which would be on the south side of Northwest First. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, and we
Maybe that's what you
did
were
all
thinking
of
was
that.
18, because that would give you 18.
Yeah.
Does that sound like it's enough? Yeah, plus, you've got Classen on the east, and you've got Western. For the people at Street Park, I'm sure that you do not want them crossing Western, for sure, to to reach a place.
Crossing Classen, yeah. And, you know, there's other, the parking garage, the structured parking garage that's going in across Classen at 21C. So there's other opportunities for parking.
For parking. You just think about, you know, whether it's safe, you know, for customers that have been, you know, at your establishment to safely cross Classen or safely cross Western.
And the only hesitation I have about this, I mean, I think it's wonderful that there's some use being made of this building, and this is not quite yet a dense urban environment. The idea of doing away with parking, it would be really problematic, but they do have some. I question how viable it would be to rely upon anybody to cross Classen to get to this business, but maybe at certain times of the evening there's not quite as much traffic as there is when I'm driving down Classen. I don't know. This was that question I had, whether this was a zoning case, whether this is something that you know really is perhaps a little premature. The downtown business district has not been extended this far yet, and there may be a reason for that. But
I think this is an attempt to I think this, by the ownership group, this is an attempt to allow development to jump across Classen, and by not having that ability to program it with the right mix of tenants, it puts a burden on the development and then the future developability of the area just west of Classen.
Ah, the joys of pioneering. Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on this matter? Comments, questions, motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the application.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14314. Would you cast your votes, please? It's approved.
Thank you.
Item number 13, case number 14315, request of Cox Communications for a variance to the front, side, rear yard fence height in the R4 General Residential District located at 509 Southwest 59th Street.
Yes, it's Scott Darr with Hewitt Zollers, 2832 West Wilshire Boulevard, Oklahoma City, 73116. I'm here on behalf of Cox Communication, building a communications hub on this site. It is currently zoned R4 residential, but with the accepted use of light-duty utility. The applicant is seeking a variance on the front and side maximum fence height. They would like to provide a 8-foot front yard security fence and a 10-foot security fence on the east side because there is currently a retaining wall at a higher elevation, having the adjacent property at a higher elevation. So they'd like to bump that up to 10 foot. I brought a detail of the fence. It's not a chain link fence. It's more of a wrought iron style with a perimeter security. They'd like to protect their investment with this security fence.
This is another case on which I scribbled, is this a zoning case? But it wouldn't matter what it, oh, Jay, just gone. It wouldn't matter really what the zoning classification was. They would still require some kind of fence variation, wouldn't they? I mean, for the kind of heights they're talking about here.
Well, if it was a commercial or industrial, you could go higher in the front yard, but being that it's residential zone, R4, 4 feet as high as you could go. 8 feet over on the east side would be the height limit.
I have to confess, I don't quite picture what it is you're going to put on the site in my mind.
This is actually an image I pulled up today off of the Google aerial, and you can see our current construction. It's a utility hub. It's minimally manned, so no personnel really, except for a few times a week, will be at this site. It houses equipment for Cox Communications.
Is it enclosed? Is it a building you're talking about here?
It is a standalone building. It's
Okay.
a CMU block wall with brick facade.
Okay. And I'm sorry, the fence that you're talking about will be solid?
It's a wrought iron. I can bring this. Here's some pictures.
I see, okay. That was my other question, just whether a solid fence would give you security problems rather than solutions, but I see, okay. Well, I like the landscaping. Okay, anybody else?
I think it would be appropriate to have this type of variance for the reasons. I also note that there are other chain link fences that are that high or whatever in the neighboring area. So
That's much better looking than a chain link fence.
And this is much improved, and with the hub and the security to maintain that very, very expensive equipment, and it's limited personnel access anyway, so we don't need anybody getting into the property or around the property. So I'd be in favor of moving the motion.
Before you make a motion, let me ask, is there anybody else who is here to be heard on this matter? There or there, either way.
My name is Robert Barnes. My address is 624 Southwest MacArthur Boulevard. I'm representing the owner of the property at 513 Southwest 60th Parish, Oklahoma City. And we got a letter in the mail that Cox Communication had filed an application with the city of Oklahoma City. And we're not sure if they're talking about the fence that I put up or...
They're talking about the fence they want to put up around their site.
This fence is located inside of the Cox Communications property, inside so much that the overhang at the top of the fence is still within property limits.
So you don't have a problem with the stockade fence that I've got separating apartments from our property?
No, sir.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that then.
Okay. Now, do you have a motion?
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14315. Would you cast your votes, please? It's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 14, case number 14316, request of James and Lenore Orange for a variance to the minimum 5-acre required for a mobile home in the R1 Single Family Residential District located at 4010 Greenwood Avenue.
Just state your name and address for the record, please.
James Orange, 4010 Greenwood, Spencer.
Mr. Orange, how large is your site?
It is about an acre.
1 acre? Okay, tell us about your application.
It's requesting a variance for a manufactured home on the property.
And this is a case where there was a mobile home there, and you're seeking to replace it.
Right.
And you came up against this issue?
It was served by utilities. The previous mobile home was served by utilities also?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Staff report notes that this is an area where their mobile homes on non-conforming lots are common, and that a mobile home existed on this property for a number of years. Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on this matter? No? Members of the board?
I thought he was replacing one that was already there.
Yes,
Yes.
Because it deteriorated. So certainly, if anything is a hardship, I would be in favor of this approval.
Is that a motion?
Yes, it would be a motion. I move the approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14316. Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved.
Thank you.
Item number 16, case number 14290, request for a variance to the minimum number of parking spaces and maneuvering on the right-of-way in the C3 Community Commercial District located at 5301 Southwestern Avenue.
My name is Elias Pando. I'm representing Los Arados Mexican Restaurant, and we have our architect here with us today.
So at our last meeting, we asked you to come up with a parking plan, and you did that and submitted it,
Yeah, it's up there.
and it's been reviewed by staff. Doesn't look to me like there's anybody else who wishes to be heard on this matter today. Comments, questions from the board members?
I can't tell how many parking spaces that you created.
Can you tell us, how many will you have ultimately?
19 total. And there's also a bike rack for eight bicycles.
Does that 18 include those parallel parking spaces immediately east of the building front parking spaces?
Correct.
How does that work?
It's paved across the right-of-way or the alley to the south, and so they'd have to turn in and see where it's crosshatched and it says infill curb. So we'd actually be getting rid of one of the entrances onto Western to
Right, but
create
what is the
parallel.
distance between the parking spaces that affront the building and the back of those spaces to the parallel parking spaces?
From the front of the building to the side, it's 26'4" with an 18-foot deep space.
What is it?
You're asking about the aisle between the 90-degree spaces and the parallels?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm just, it's a
26.
curiosity thing. Is that allow for proper maneuvering from a...
24 standard.
Minimum.
Really? Okay. Learn something new every day.
And so we were hoping to kind of help with all the entrances on that part of the street by filling that in, and it would allow us to pick up those 2 extra spots. So the variance would also need to include parking on the right-of-way because those parallel spots would actually be on the right-of-way. So it'd be maneuvering and parking on the right-of-way. And we wouldn't have the 25 required spaces. So it's actually all 3 of those things.
There was also some discussion last time about limiting the number of tables. Can we even do that, Laura?
Practically speaking, that would be very difficult to enforce.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
I think that the way that the parking requirements work, it's based on a square footage, and so the size of the building just is sort of the limitation on how many people there will be there at any given time. But other than that, I don't think it's really practical for us to try to limit the number of tables.
And there is street parking available east, and again, the homes are smaller, and, there might be room for 1 car in front of each residence. I don't think you want to line that street. It's not fair to those neighbors, and I don't think it's the right thing to do for your customers. But in light of the fact that they've, worked to accommodate their parking situation, I objected to your application in December, but I will support your application and your request today.
Is that a motion?
It is a motion to approve the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14290. Would you cast your votes, please? It's approved.
Thank you.
I think that concludes our items to be heard today. I
learned at training before the holidays that it did not require a motion to adjourn to actually adjourn. We could just get up and leave. But I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Well, before we do, I wanted to thank staff for the workshop that they put on for us. I found it very interesting and